Why my program a little different? Because it's my desire to develop the local kid. With my resume, I could have started, and I've been solicited by other big programs because of my resume, so I can go coach these higher level kids. But my desire was for a kid that lives in Urbana, live in Bellefontaine, live in West Liberty, Riverside, DeGraff, Ben Logan, or wherever, that you don't have to travel to Columbus or to Dayton or to Cincinnati or to Kentucky to get high level basketball. That you can find somewhere local and that person's gonna take you.
God, family, toughness, and hard work. Family is a big part of it. And I think that that's why people stay, because there's no drama.
He does not allow the drama.
There's no
If
drama.
something starts up, he stops it immediately. And that's a big thing, especially with girls.
And they play for each other. Yes, the girls play for each other.
Some of the attractive points are the ones that aren't popular by some other programs. And when you look at those 4 things that he believes in and everything revolves around them, it's not just something you put on paper. It's not just something that sounds good when I say it. You know, he's dedicated to that, and everything that he preaches, good, you know, even when mistakes are made, is reference to that. I see Trey in all your posts. I see Trey, you know, where are you going tonight? An hour away to do, and it's, you know, it's that relationship piece. And if you can get the best of both worlds, once they get here and believe, not many leave. You don't see very many of those elite players that want to get better, that are dedicated to those 4 things, say, this isn't for me,
So I grew up in South Central LA, and if you've never seen at 50 years old, this used to be a common movie that I don't necessarily recommend people to watch, but Boys in the Hood, or Menace to Society, or Colors, or even a lot of kids have seen the movie Love and Basketball, which is more of a happier version. My life wasn't so happy. So my mom and dad gave birth to me, and I'm saying that on purpose because after that, they had their demons and struggles that they had to fight. So my mom was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and my dad wasn't in my life. He did not raise me. And I didn't get reconnected with my dad until after 31 years later. I actually thought my dad was dead. So my grandmother raised me in South Central LA. My mom lived in a house behind us with my sister. And so I did see my mom, but my mom, you know, she battled the drugs and alcohol. So if I were kind of to describe my childhood, and you gotta imagine living in South Central LA, this is a poverty-stricken area. Predominantly, there's blacks and Hispanics. The only white people that I had seen were on TV and at school, my teachers and counselors. This is a true story. And you would be driving, you would see a car. Normally, later in the evenings is when they would do it. And they would turn their lights off and just kind of stop in the streets. Then they would just rev up their car and just start driving down the street. And you just hear, they would start shooting. And we would just jump down and lay on the ground, hide behind trees, and they would shoot up. Now, obviously, I lived in what they call a blood neighborhood. So the area I grew up in, there were either Bloods or Crips. I wasn't a part of a gang initially. Well, at the age of 10, I was coming home from school and I was wearing, I don't know if I was wearing a red shirt or some red pants or something. So I'm 10, I'm in the 5th grade. I'm a 10-year-old walking home from school. And these Crips, because I had to walk through different territories, these were 17-year-olds, they jumped me. They beat me up because I was wearing red. So I get home, and when I get home, you know, I got bruises on me, and my mom says, like, what happened to you? I'm like, I got jumped. So she says, oh no. She uses some choice words, just profanity, but she takes me down to my buddy's house, who they were involved in a gang. And so the gang at that time was called the Bloodstone Villains, the BSV. Well, my mom talks to them, tells them what happens. Well, they put me in a car and we go driving in the area that I got jumped. Well, we don't see anybody there, so they go driving through this Crip neighborhood and they see a Crip standing out and they jump out. You know who this kid is? They're like, nope. Well, he got jumped. Well, long story short, they beat the snot out of this kid. He probably was 17 or 18 and made me beat him up as well. I've never had a fight. So I'm 10-year-old punching this kid, and we jump in the car and we leave. And they tell me because my mom asked them to do them a favor, they did that for her, but they could not do that again unless I got jumped in the gang. So at 10 years old, I was asked to become a gang member, really, so I could have support, because what just transpired was kind of an act of what a gang member would do, but I wasn't in a gang. And so I joined the gang, and proudly to say, I wasn't involved in any hellacious, gang affiliated things, but I had to join really for support or backup. So if I were to get jumped again, go to school, life was pretty cool there. Had a great high school career, played basketball, all that was great. I go to college at Central State University in Ohio, which is a historically black college, right? And so how does that happen? How does a kid from California come to Ohio? Everybody always asks me that. Back in the day, there was a movie called School Days. There was The Fresh Prince and some other shows that were out. And so my principal at that time had recommended that maybe I attend a black college, that I probably would like it. And I thought at that time, man, it'd be pretty cool to go to a black college. And I did have a good experience, but to be honest, for me, that was almost like going backwards in a sense, because Central State was a predominantly black school, which means that most of the people that went there were black. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed being there and I enjoyed learning about my culture. But for me, the real world for me was diversity. So I went from in an atmosphere where everything was predominantly black. And again, I want to reiterate that from learning about my culture and all that, that part was great. So I was an engineer for a few years. I was a probation officer, and I coached college basketball. And then in the midst of this, I go through coaching college basketball, and then the challenge is that there came some rumors about me in the program that, in a sense, cost me my job because of this situation. So after that, to be honest, I was struggling with depression, and here comes a family, the Watson family, who asked me to start training their kid. And they lived in Cable, Ohio, and I started training in a barn, in a pole barn. So I'm from the city, so this would be like training in somebody's garage, right, if you're not from the country. And so in this pole barn are cows, horses, dogs, birds, and I'm training their son. And after I train their son, they're like, hey, what do you think about, training him, 3 or 4 times a week? And to be honest, I'm thinking, bro, I just came from Division II basketball. I have my office. I'm going out recruiting people, and I'm in a freaking barn now. And to be honest, I just felt like my life was over. I just don't know how to describe it. One of my dream jobs was to coach college basketball, and here I am, and it's literally been snatched away from me. The word starts to spread that I was training this team, and because we live in a rural area, more people start coming out and they start training. And so one of our most famous hashtags is God First, because I kind of made a decision when Urbana University didn't work out. I made this decision, if I'm going to do this, God, I'm going to put you at the forefront of what I'm doing, because you're giving me this opportunity to still continue to live my dreams. And yes, I could have coached high school basketball and so forth, but I was so hurt by what happened. So first and foremost, Huntsman, the program, which most people just call us Huntsman now, which is super cool, would not exist without Georgia. And those that are in the program absolutely know who Georgia is. Georgia does all the behind the scenes, and that's my wife. I'm a visionary. I actually am. There is a rumor, and it's a false narrative, that I'm not organized and that I'm not disciplined and all that. Like, I am very good at those things, but my wife is extremely good at those things as well. Program, as big as it is, would not exist if it wasn't for Georgia. Georgia's gift, honestly, if I am the body, Georgia is the heartbeat.
A week or whatever.
Right.
So what goes into that, and what's the background behind that?
So I think that a couple things.
for me, there's a lot of work that's done at the forefront. So kind of right at the beginning of the season. And that is a good thing and also a very hard thing because it is a lot. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, and a lot of people, well, some people, but a lot of people say that, so Huntsman is your only job, right? I'm like, no, I have a full-time job. I actually have another side job, and then I do this as well. So I'm busy. But at the same time, like, I love doing it. I truly love doing it. And a lot of people are like that's probably not my cup of tea. And I get that too. That is the one pro about kind of this working relationship that I have with Huntsman or Trey and myself. So it does work really well most of the time. But what do I do? So I manage the website, manage all of the registrations, whether it comes to tryout registration, all of the kids getting on the team, putting all the practices in. I mean, I could probably go on for 5 minutes, so I'll just say a couple other things, but I put together practice schedules. With the help of Trey, I get locations. I set up times for those locations. I set up the tournament schedules, and again, Trey and I go over that stuff ourselves. It is important that all of that stuff is done correctly ahead of time. Otherwise, it's pure malfunction during the season. And sometimes that has happened. You know, I am human. I do make mistakes. And I will say our families have been wonderful to work with because they understand. And they're like, Georgia, like, so that's kind of in a nutshell of what I do. Again, I do a lot more, but anything that you can think of behind the scenes. And I think all of us have done something behind the scenes.
I think the culture was great. Seeing growth in my daughter the last few months. She grew spiritually. She, you know, just have more confidence about herself. You know, then she has good friends. I mean, the girls are obviously, they all seem like they're pretty close, and you know, it's just beyond basketball. They text, they social media, follow each other on social media. So I think that's cool, because you know, I hooped when I was younger, and I got a group text on my phone, all my bros that we talk junk like we still in high school. And I mean, I've been out of school 20 something years.
I played,
so.
But I let it go. I went into marketing. Honestly, I think Huntsman brought the best out of her, just because, like you said, you get halfway through the season with the team, and then you realize this probably wasn't for her. We never got that with Huntsman, so it was just good to see that. So I think really, like, we were initially just telling her, hey, everything is bigger than basketball. We all know that. But with what she's done and how she has progressed in this team, I believe that she will follow suit and probably go. We're picking out colleges and visiting colleges, so.
This is the place to be. I mean, you won't regret it. You get more than just basketball here. You get lifelong memories, friends, family, and you won't regret it. It's the best program around.